When I say I'm not a fan, it doesn't mean that I don't think it can work for some organizations. The reason is I was on an organization, we tried it, I was on there for 3 years. I mean, I got all my friends to come to the thing. Okay, well, once I'd run through all my friends, I'd kind of run through all my friends, And as a director, who wants to help, I don't know how to keep getting people to come to this event so they can go on a tour and then make a multi-year commitment. Because once they've made the multi-year commitment, there's not necessarily a lot of motivation for them to come back the next year. They've had the tour, So I just find that you have less reason to go and sit down with a donor and say, this is what we're doing, and here, because and I'll let Missy talk about it, but I do believe that fundraising and development are about listening to them and not just talking to them. So I'll say, so that's, but like I said, I won't in any way suggest that I don't think it can work for organizations, at least for a period of time, and that may be how you start, but I think eventually, you may have to move into a major donor kind of approach.
Do y'all have thoughts?
I share Mary Ben's. I don't know a lot about the model, but I think about fundraising. I'll use kind of a football analogy for all of you guys that are in the room. Like 3. I think fundraising a lot of times is sort of this mystical science that you have to get all of these experts to and buy into. But I see it as more just sort of blocking and tackling. And if you can get really good at blocking and tackling and doing the listening and developing individual relationships, it ain't that hard. It really doesn't have to be a real mystical thing. And so, talking to somebody, you mentioned an AFP mentor, that's a great, talking to people that know what they're doing, go to some blocking and tackling type trainings, things like that. It's really not, I get concerned when I see nonprofits spending a lot of money on the big fancy new fundraising scheme. Not that Benevon's a scheme. I'm just.
It's not. It's not rocket science. It is not. That's what I say. Fundraising is not rocket science. But what is critical to be effective is listening and follow up, and that building the discipline to put the systems in place so that you have a plan for following up with a donor, a prospect, and putting yourself in their shoes as you do that.
It is. It has to be meaningful, and we don't use that particular model where I work. It's not to say that we don't have informational opportunities to get a select group of people to come to our location, but we don't do it on that larger scale, because I think, again, to Patsy's point, one of the things that we strive in, I don't hit it every day, any of us do, but I have a constant list of people in my mind that I'm like, have I talked to them? Have I emailed them? Do I know what's going on in their life? Have I figured out, and it's also when you get the no, when you have 2 or 3 people that tell you no, do we actually know why they're telling us no? They may have just put their 4th child in college, and now they have, 4 kids in college. It could be anything, but it's the follow-up and it's the meaningful dialogue. And sometimes if you're just concerned with getting them in, getting that gift, it may not be as rich in terms of the relationship that it could be in getting them back and getting them committed and sharing. And that's where we as agencies need to ensure that we're not, again, that it's as an agency. Sometimes having a card come from the program director to a donor is just as meaningful as the CEO. Because they're the people on the front lines every day. Hey, I just had a family walk through my door today, and I understand from my colleague that it's because of your grant I was able to give them X. And having it come from the program people, there's ways that you can communicate that people are like, oh my God, I got a card from the agency I gave money to. It's a miracle.
Or a phone call is even more of a miracle.
Right.